Money touches absolutely everything you do as an adult. Sure, before you strolled across the stage and received your diploma, you might have been able to stick your head in the sand and pretend that you could survive without money. But once you toss your hat up in the air, the cold hard reality that is life. Sure, you could mooch off your parents and live in their basement until you're 35, but I'm guessing that's probably not how you pictured your life going after high school. So yep, there's no way around it. You're gonna need money for things. To save for your first house, to go to college, take killer vacations, and to buy stuff. Not to mention, you've probably gotten used to having running water, electricity, and a phone. But here's the crazy thing. Even though money touches almost everything you do, schools barely spend any time talking about it. Instead, in high school, we took algebra, we studied chemistry, and we learned how to write essays. Now, I'm a teacher. These things aren't bad things. But when's the last time you had to balance a chemical equation for any reason other than an assignment? Yeah. Probably never. Not only that, but there's a good chance your parents probably didn't talk much about money. My parents gave me a piggy bank and taught me how to save and to give regularly. But beyond that, we didn't really talk much about finances. My dad was a pastor, so I grew up hearing very little about how to make money. In fact, not making money was sort of held up as a virtue. And when it came to investing, we never talked about it. In fact, my dad would say his retirement plan was Jesus coming back. Now, I knew he was joking, but I also knew they weren't really focused on it, and so neither was I growing up. Once I started college and moved out, I had to figure out how to handle my money. Fortunately, I'm not a huge spender by nature, so I was able to avoid some of the massive money pitfalls that trip up so many young adults, like student loans and credit card debt. But I still made tons of costly mistakes before I finally hit my financial stride in my 30s. What's up, everyone? My name is Matt Matheson. I'm a personal finance writer and school principal. I'm also a founder of Family Money School, and this channel is all about helping kids and the parents who love them become money rock stars. In this video, I'm going to share 12 pieces of money advice I wish I'd gotten as a high school graduate. These took me way too long to learn, and I want to help you put them into practice right now so you can be ahead of the game with your cash. Okay, let's go. Giddy up. Okay, tip number 1 is to look out for your future self. People are terrible at making good decisions for their future selves. Instead, we sacrifice our future selves for our present comfort. It's the reason we sleep in instead of exercising, crush that junk food instead of the carrot sticks, and it's why most of us spend money like there's no tomorrow. But there is a tomorrow, and there's a tomorrow after that one. And there are lots of tomorrows. One of the keys you need to grasp as a high school graduate is that much of what you'll need to do with your money in order to become wealthy will be focused on your future self, not your present one. So that'll mean not spending on some of the wants you'd like to have today so that you can have more of what you want in the future. Remember, and this is critical, not spending today doesn't mean that you're never going to spend that money. You will. It just means you're going to spend it down the road in the future. Chances are you're probably going to need to do some sort of education after high school, but with the average cost coming in between $25,000 and $35,000 a year, depending on where you attend, don't get stuck on just going to college. In fact, one of the best financial decisions you can make is to actually avoid college. Wait, what? There are tons of college alternatives that are much less expensive and provide you with the killer skills you'll need to get your career started off on the right foot. That's why you should not rule out community college. Instead of taking your freshman and sophomore courses at an expensive four-year college with massive classes taught by grad students or newbie professors, you can take your first 1 to 2 years at a local community college. Now, not only will you learn in smaller classes where your prof will actually know your name, you'll save yourself a boatload of money. That's because tuition for a local community college averages $3,400 a year. Yes, that's right, $3,400 a year. That will save you around 30 grand each year, so you won't be loaded down by the insane student loans of new graduates. Instead, you'll be able to save up for the last 2 years of your education at a 4-year college. That's because many 2-year schools offer admission agreements with public colleges that allow qualified students to transfer their credits toward earning a bachelor's degree. Just be sure you check out what courses transfer so you don't have any unpleasant surprises. Now, once you've transferred, you can complete your last 2 years and graduate from the 4-year school. And don't worry, no one will ever know you went to community college, except when you brag about how much money you saved by doing so. The next tip I wish someone would have given me was to apply for scholarships like my life depended on it. Now, according to the National Student Aid Study, there are 1,581,000 scholarships available to students every year. If you look at the total amount offered by all these scholarships, there is about $6.1 billion available to students. Yeah, that's a crazy amount of free cash that's out there. Now, if you want your slice of the scholarship pie, you need to get strategic when applying for these prizes. Okay, first, dedicate 1 hour a day to working on your applications. Now, besides applying for financial aid by completing the FAFSA and reaching out to your chosen college's financial aid department, focus on local private scholarships. Not only will you have way better odds of being successful for your local Rotary scholarship when you're in competition with only 10 other people and not 10,000, you'll also have lots of local connections that may result in some big scores. Next, you can expand your scholarship quest by using a scholarship search engine. Now, lots of these have filters you can strategically use to find those scholarships that you're most likely to have a strong application for. FastWeb, for example, lists scholarships by year of study, those for veterans, bilingual students, and students who play specific sports. Once you've got a list of scholarships that are a good fit, prioritize which ones you'll apply for first based on the award, your chances of being successful, and how much effort the application will take. And be sure you're working smarter, not necessarily harder. In many cases, you may be able to reuse the written portion of your application. These should go higher on the list as they'll take less time and effort. Then apply away. Simply rinse and repeat and enjoy going to school on someone else's dime. Next, you have to get ready to work. Okay, about 4 million students graduated from high school last year, and 42% or 14 million 18 to 24-year-olds are currently in college. So what can you do to stand out from the crowd? 2 words: work hard. Now, being enrolled in college and crushing college are 2 very different things. Let your insane work ethic be the defining characteristic that sets you apart from your peers. Now, not only will a crazy work ethic improve your grades and lead to more potential opportunities after you graduate, you never know who's watching and taking note of you going the extra mile. As you've probably heard, opportunity comes to those who are prepared. As Thomas Edison said, opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and it looks like work. Now, by working hard, you'll make sure you don't miss the many golden opportunities that will come your way. When it comes to handling your money, there is no tool more powerful than the budget. By planning where your money will go each month, you'll ensure that every dollar is put to work and you won't waste any of your hard-earned cash. Now, it all comes down to simple math. And trust me, when it comes to budgeting, you don't want to pick a fight with math. Because when you do, you will lose, and badly.
All right, let's go. Oh! You like that, old man? You want a piece of me?
I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole thing. Oh!
That's why it's critical that you plan your spending so that the cash you spend is always less than you make. Now, that doesn't mean you need to be crazy frugal to the point you're reusing bath water to do the dishes or sewing your own underwear from old t-shirts. You'll still be able to spend money, but when you do, be sure that you're not feeling pressure to spend on things you don't really care about, but maybe others around you do. For example, lots of people drive nice cars. For some, they like the luxurious feel of a high-end vehicle when they get behind the wheel. For others, it's a way to keep score of how they're doing in the game of life, a visible sign to the world of how they're doing financially. For me, I drive a beat-up car, a 2008 Nissan Versa, because I don't really care about the car I drive. This car has been to war with me. It's missing part of the side view mirror that was smashed during an unfortunate fender bender, and the roof resembles a golf ball. It's full of tiny little dimples because it's been written off in a hailstorm. It's ugly looking, and I'm sure people think we're struggling financially when I roll up in my homely looking ride. But I drive it because I don't want to spend big bucks on a car, and I don't care what people think. Instead, I'd rather go on killer vacations with my wife and kids, and I have. I'd rather be sailing through the Caribbean once every few years than cruising in a set of fancy wheels. Now, besides avoiding debt like the plague, the other perk of spending less than you make is that you have room in your budget to save like your life depends on it, because the quality of your future life actually does. Lots of experts advise you to save 10% of your gross income. And if you start saving early, this will lead to millions by the time you're in your 50s. You know, with a median household income of $67,521 in 2020, saving 10% of your income each year will mean you'd save about $563 each month. If you invest that money and earn a 7% rate of return for the next 40 years, you'll have almost $1.5 million. That's because at 18, you have a superpower that very few people do: time. You know, $1 invested today will be worth around $27 when you're 65. That's 27 times what you started with. And that is insane. Now, on the flip side, every year you wait could potentially cost you tens of thousands of dollars. You know, check out this example. Two friends, Ron and Rita, graduate from high school the same year. Rita gets to work right away. Now, in addition to paying for college with a part-time job during the school year and summer work when she's off, she starts saving $100 a month. Ron, on the other hand, he spends most of what he makes. He graduates with student loans, but he's not a complete failure with money. He sees his friend Rita and what she's doing, and he knows he needs to save early for retirement as well. So when he graduates at 23, he starts putting away the same $100 a month as his friend Rita. Now, assuming a 7% rate of return, how much will they each have when they're 65? Well, Ron will have amassed an impressive $304,000, a nice little nest egg for all his troubles. But Rita, on the other hand, who started a mere 5 years earlier than Ron, well, she'll have over $438,000. That's over $134,000 more. So those 5 years of indecision on Ron's part will have cost him over $134,000. Another investing hack that all savvy savers master is using tax-advantaged savings accounts. Now, in the US, this means investing inside of a Roth IRA, or the TFSA for my Canadian peeps. Now, with Roth IRAs, you invest after tax dollars, and so you don't get any tax deduction. What that means, though, is that once you start withdrawing the funds, the money is tax-free. That will save you huge dollars, around 20%, when you go to withdraw the cash. Now, when it comes to what to actually invest in, the key is to avoid individual stocks. You know, research has repeatedly shown that picking individual stocks is a loser's game. Sure, just like gambling, you may pick a winner every once in a while, and if you're really lucky, you might even make a YouTube video that goes viral on it. But in the long run, the house always wins. Instead, buy the entire market by investing in a low-cost index mutual fund, or ETF. Now, these investments are made up of tiny slices of every stock on a particular stock market index, like the Dow Jones or S&P 500. Buy these each month and hold them for a long time. Just be sure to watch the fees on some of these funds, because high fees will absolutely eat up your returns. And you can check out my video on that here. And if you amp up your savings rate above 10%, or you earn more than the median income, which you likely will, especially as you get older, your savings will explode, leading to you being a multimillionaire in your 50s. The key when saving is to make sure your saving is the first priority when you're deciding how to budget your money. The mistake most people make is to spend on their needs first and then their wants, and then to save for the future from what's left over. Now, the problem with this is, well, you guessed it, there's very rarely anything left over. And that's because we naturally tend to spend everything that we have. It's not our fault, actually. It's how we're wired. There's actually a name for it: Parkinson's Law. A Parkinson's Law is the adage that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. And the same is true for money and your spending. Spending expands so as to use the money available. That's why you need to be sure that you save before you've spent on your needs and wants. A method of saving often referred to as paying yourself first. Now, it's one thing to have the money to save, it's another thing to actually stash it away in a bank account every month. Your brain knows you have extra money, and you'll naturally want to spend it on things like a new car, a killer vacation, or expensive nights out with friends. And when this happens, you'll be left with nothing but good intentions and an empty bank account. That's because human beings have a limited amount of willpower, And having to say no every month to what you want is exhausting. Sure, you may have the discipline to do so for a month or two, but eventually you'll get tired and end up spending that money that you were going to save. That's why in order to ensure that you always save each month, you absolutely need to automate your savings. Now, by setting up automatic savings withdrawals each month, you'll ensure that money is always being stashed away for your future, no matter how badly you want to spend on other things. And because the money comes out with you even thinking about it, eventually you won't even notice it's leaving your bank account. Now, this is especially true if you time the automatic withdrawal to come out of your account on the same day you receive your paycheck. Doing this will mean that your pay comes in and the money is saved at virtually the exact same time, and your mind will barely even register the savings as having happened. Until you look at your savings account in a few months, a few years, or 40 years in the future when you'll be a multi-millionaire. And it honestly won't have felt like any sacrifice at all. Now, if you can't be bothered to use a budget and you don't want to make those spending trade-offs to win with money, you will find it impossible to avoid debt. Especially scary is the debt you take on buying items that go down in value. Now, these depreciating assets, things like clothes, cars, computers, and other things that don't start with the letter C, are financial anchors when it comes to building wealth. Now, especially scary are car payments. With the average monthly car payment in the US coming in at over $500 for new vehicles, this translates into $2.2 million by the time you're 65. So ask yourself, is driving that new vehicle worth $2.2 million? I think it's pretty easy. Definitely no. I'll stick with my paid for beat up Nissan Versa. Thank you very much. Now, one quick note, it can be important to build your credit score as you move into adulthood. Having a good credit score can do everything from get you a better interest rate on your mortgage to improving your car insurance rates. To crush your credit score, you'll need to make use of some form of credit. The best form for young adults is a credit card since they're easy to obtain and you can make small purchases on them. Use the credit card for one purchase each month that you already have the cash for. Then be sure to pay off the card on time every month. If you're late with a payment, it will have the opposite effect, damaging your credit and making your life more difficult. Now, it's important to understand that the point of using this card is to build your credit score, to enjoy the advantages of having good credit. It is not to buy things you don't have the money for or to make online purchases easier. In fact, research has shown that people tend to spend more money when using a credit card than when using cash. So use it wisely for only one purchase each month. Now, there's one type of debt I didn't mention, a type of debt that people oftentimes think of as good debt, but which Americans owe $1.73 trillion on: student loans. And while a lot of people believe taking on student loan debt is just part of going to college, in the next video, I'll show you exactly the steps I took to go to college debt-free. I'll see you there.